Hello, and welcome to another video on CIPD Level 5 Made Familiar. In this video, we shall take a look into 5CO03 AC1.3. In this question, you are expected to guide Monique, the newest member on your team, who currently finds it hard to contribute in team meetings. You consider communicating in an informed, clear, and confident way a key skill for a people professional. Thus, you want to help Monique to understand this, as well as some techniques she can apply to achieve it. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to demonstrate an understanding of the requirements of the question, demonstrate an understanding of how to address the assessment criterion using the command verb explain, and develop well-structured responses that align with the assessment criteria and grading standards. With that established, let's dive into today's lesson. We will start by exploring what this question is really asking and what you need to focus on in your response. In this assessment criterion, you are required to achieve two key tasks. First, explain why communication is an important skill, and second, recommend two techniques, or give Monique a solid advice on how she can contribute confidently in a manner that is both clear and informed. One thing many learners don't realize is that this assessment criterion has remained largely the same over the years. What has changed is how CIPD now assesses it. Rather than simply explaining the theory, you'll now solve realistic workplace situations, such as helping Monique contribute confidently in meetings. By considering how you would help her, you develop an understanding of why people professionals must communicate in an informed, clear, and confident way. Therefore, do not answer this as another communication theory question. Before you start writing, ask yourself this question. If Monique already understands the importance of good communication, why doesn't she contribute during meetings? The answer isn't more theory. It's applying people practice to solve a real workplace challenge. That practical, hands-on mindset is exactly what the assessor are looking for in your response. Let's step out of the abstract and jump straight into the micro case study provided in the brief. Think about Monique for a second. If she already understands the importance of good communication, why doesn't she contribute during your meetings? Think about it. Quoting some classic communication model won't magically give her confidence, right? We have to apply people practice to solve her real-world hesitation. Now, let's put you directly in the hot seat. Imagine your team is sitting around a table right now, hashing out a brand new employee benefits program. You know for a fact Monique has a brilliant, highly valuable suggestion, but she stays totally silent. She just lacks the confidence to jump in. As her team leader, what would you do? By answering that specific question, you're already identifying why informed, clear, and confident communication is essential in people practice. Therefore, rather than writing general statements about communication, explain why speaking up matters in this situation. How could Monique's contribution improve the discussion? How could her confidence benefit the team? These are the kinds of practical explanations the examiner is looking for. Now that we have developed a clear understanding of the question, the next important step is understanding the command verb. Successfully answering CIPD assessment questions depends not only on subject knowledge, but also on your ability to correctly interpret and apply the command verb. Imagine you asked a colleague why employee engagement has fallen, and they replied, "Because employees are unhappy." Have they really answered your question? Probably not. You would naturally ask, why? That's exactly what the command verb explain requires. It isn't enough to make a statement. You must make your point clear, give reasons, and help the reader understand why something is true. All right, now let's see what a perfect assessment response for this AC should look like. Starting with this very basic sentence. People professionals should communicate confidently. Factually speaking, this statement is 100% correct. But in an assessment context, it utterly fails the explain command verb test. Because if you just write that, the examiner is still left sitting there wondering why. Why should they communicate confidently? What happens if they don't? Remember, leaving the examiner asking why means leaving points on the table. We need to give a strong reason, and we need to link it right back to our case study. Now, let's move to the second version and see how this builds into the golden response. People professionals should communicate confidently because it enables them to influence decisions, build trust, and ensure good people practices are followed. At Plyton, if Monique contributes her ideas during meetings, the team can make better informed decisions about the new employee benefits program. Wow, now that is an answer. So what changed? Well, to summarize this whole transformation, just look at them side by side. Version 1 just throws a general statement at the wall. Version 2 explains exactly why the concept matters and perfectly applies it to Monique's specific situation at Plyton. That's exactly what the examiner expects when the command verb in question is explain. The winning difference is moving from a general rote statement to a targeted, reasoned application. Now that you understand both the question and the command verb, let's focus on turning that understanding into a high-scoring response. We'll break the answer into manageable sections so you can confidently plan, develop, and structure your own response. You won't be staring blankly at a blinking cursor. You'll be following a proven blueprint to hit every single requirement. Let's walk through them one by one. Step 1. Start with an introduction. A great response starts with a strong opening. Keep it brief, but engaging enough to draw the reader into your discussion. Therefore, briefly introduce the role of people professionals within an organization. The goal here is to establish context before discussing why communication is important, so keep it clear and concise. For example, you could begin your answer by writing, "People professionals play a strategic role in supporting organizations through effective people practices. They advise managers, influence workplace decisions, and help create positive outcomes for both employees and the organization. To carry out this role effectively, they must communicate in an informed, clear, and confident manner." In less than 50 words, this introduction has set the tone, creating a clear and logical foundation for the rest of the answer. Step 2. Explain why effective communication is important. The next part of your answer should focus on why it is important for people professionals to communicate in an informed, clear, and confident way. Once you've introduced the topic, move into the first requirement of the question. Explaining why this communication skill is important. Now listen carefully. Instead of just machine gunning 10 different shallow reasons, pick 2 rock-solid reasons why communication actually matters. For instance, you might focus on how clear communication helps influence decisions and how it builds professional credibility. Once you've got your 2 points, develop each one with a relevant example from the case study. Explain how if Monique confidently shares a well-prepared suggestion during that employee benefits discussion, she is far more likely to actually influence the team and lead them to a better informed decision. Moving right along to step 3, the second part of the question asks you to recommend 2 practical techniques or pieces of advice for Monique. Rather than simply listing communication techniques, choose those that best address her lack of confidence and explain how each one would help her communicate in an informed, clear, and confident way. For example, if you believe Monique lacks confidence because she isn't always sure her ideas are well supported, you could recommend preparing key points in advance and gathering relevant evidence. This would give her greater confidence to contribute because she can support her opinions with facts rather than assumptions. The golden rule here is to always link the technique back to her and explain exactly why it's going to help her specific situation. Now, step 4. This is where you really strengthen your answer. You've already answered the core question, sure. But to truly elevate your response, look at the flip side. Briefly highlight what could happen if people professionals fail to communicate in an informed, clear, and confident way. For instance, highlight the negative consequences for Plyton if Monique's ideas continue to just go unheard. Showing the cost of failure perfectly reinforces why this skill is just so critical. Step 5. Structuring your answer. Bringing everything together, a clear structure makes your answer organized and easy for the examiner to follow. Throughout your response, link your discussion back to the case study using relevant workplace examples to demonstrate application. Support your points with wider reading and credible sources where appropriate. Referring to evidence-based practice, professional courage, or the CIPD profession map can further strengthen your discussion. Always remember, passing this assessment criterion is as easy as ABC. A. Apply the command verb explain. Remember that in an explanation, you are expected to make your points clear, Provide relevant reasons and make your reader understand why. Therefore, avoid purely descriptive responses and lean towards explaining why people-professional communication matters, and hence why and how Monique can contribute valuable input in the discussion on how to improve people practices at Plyton. B. Balance your word count. Set a clear word count to each AC before you begin writing, and ensure you stay within those limits when writing. Always remember to prioritize depth over breadth. This will help you manage the overall assignment word count effectively. C. Cite and reference. Always support your arguments with evidence from reputable external sources. Ensure you cite and reference at least 2 credible sources. Be mindful of your in-text citations and ensure to apply the year of publication. If you want to see a full example of a top-scoring answer, check out the link in the description below. If this video helped you understand AC 1.3 more clearly, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with other CIPD learners who may be struggling. Thanks for learning with me, and see you in the next one.